Hey, everybody, we've got a show for you here today. This is Ryan Day recapping the 2025 Ohio State signing class. We split these videos up into two because they're very different shows. One is Ryan Day talking about his recruiting class, and the other is talking about the Michigan game fallout from the press conference on Wednesday. So we thought let's just give each of these to you as Tom Orr and I discuss what we learned from Ryan Day. This again, talking about the recruiting class, the loyalty that was shown, and by Devin Sanchez and his family, big names. Tavien Clair has been around, quarterback, 5-star quarterbacks, has been around forever. Started camping at Ohio State around the 8th grade and has seemingly never left. And so Ryan Day talks about that, the importance of the receiving class and the offensive line class struggles, and get some pointed questions there about Justin Frye. So tune in for that. And again, hit the bell to be notified. Hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. And of course, subscribe to BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. Just $4.99 for your first month. We've got plenty going on behind the scenes on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So thank you all for tuning in.
That's what happened. We have a super chat.
Super chat, Omar Austin, reading between the lines here, but did the quote-unquote doing different things on the D-line next year, close quote, give bye-bye LJ vibes, or is it just me?
No, that's a good point. Omar Austin with the super chat. Ryan Day mentioned that in passing in terms of, that's part of the recruiting class as well. So, Tom, let's talk about the recruiting aspect of today and the that portion of the press conference, which constituted about 15 of the 45 or the 15 minutes of the hour-long session, maybe 12 minutes, 10 or 12. And frankly, I wanted to ask about the running backs, but couldn't, because by the time I got called upon, we were into the Michigan thing, and I felt if I went back to the recruiting thing, people would call me soft. So even though I did wanted to write a story about the running backs, I could not because I did not get called on soon enough. But that was interesting, because Ryan Day did say that they're going to be looking at, what kind of fronts are they going to be running next year. They specifically recruited different body types up front in case they do some different things. And nowadays, everybody does different things. It's not just a 3-4 or a 4-3. It's, sometimes you're odd, sometimes you're even, sometimes your even is 2. And you've got all these other things around it.
Sometimes it's 5.
Yeah. And so they've recruited some different body types up front to get that done. But yeah, that's an interesting aspect of it where this is happening. It's going to be, we've seen it since Oregon, and Ryan Day mentioned since the Oregon game, he's been very happy with the defense. And some of the things they've done since then is adding more odd fronts. And I don't think they're going to go away from that moving forward. They're still going to do multiple, but they're not going to not do the odd fronts.
Right. It was pretty static for quite a while. And then after the Oregon game, it usually will take, change is difficult. And so if you're comfortable and you continue winning, it's easy to go, it's fine. We're winning. Why are you complaining? Why would we change anything? Why would you change anything when everything's going great? Once you lose, then it opens things up a little bit for, hey, maybe it is time to make a change. And you saw that after the Oregon game. And I talked to Ross Fulton a bunch of times, and our other X's and O's guys on our board talked about, Jim Knowles is doing more, the Ohio State defense is doing more things that Jim Knowles has done in the past. And it was like, you sort of felt like, okay, Jim Knowles had been driving with the parking brake on for a little bit, whether that was driven by folks below him or above him on the org chart. And so then the parking brake had been released, and Jim Knowles was able to sort of do what Jim Knowles wanted to do. And that was very effective for the most part. Now, they ran a bunch of 3-man stuff and ran the jack and against like Purdue.
Yeah.
And it was real basic, and it didn't work at all. But in the games where they needed stuff, Penn State scored 13 points. Michigan scored really 3 points. The other 10 points came on drives that totaled 5 yards. So I'm not holding that against Jim Knowles. The defense looked so much better, more dynamic. Went from, they never get to the quarterback, to, they're right at the top of the league in the Big Ten in terms of sacks. And so, yeah, of course. Why would you not do that? Now, does that necessarily mean maybe you've got folks who were not on board with this kind of stuff beforehand now on board with it? That's entirely possible, because you've seen some of this stuff happening, and you've seen positive impacts from it. But whether people are on board or not, it sounds like changes here. It's not, you're not going back in time, so you can, get on the bus or get under it, basically.
Well, I think you're also losing 4 seniors
Mhm.
on the defensive line who
Mhm.
were brought in to be part of a 4-man front.
Yep.
And so with those guys going, you can make pull the Band-Aid off, make a clean sweep kind of thing, and go that route. So let me throw in the Justin Frye thing. Ryan Day was asked about Justin Frye signing just 3 offensive linemen and how would you assess his job performance? And that's where Ryan Day gets, well, everybody has to do better. Everybody has their pluses and minuses type of thing.
Uh-huh.
And then also mention, he's got some things that he's doing well, and he's some things that he needs to improve upon. And as we're doing this live, I did see something on the way in that David Sanders is not expected to sign today.
Correct. And related to that, Mark Giffler had talked about on our board about the fact that, hey, the timing of the Josh Simmons to the NFL announcement might not be completely coincidental. Like, hey, there's a left tackle opening in Columbus, Ohio this year. And, I don't know if David Sanders is ready to be a day one left tackle starter, but if you're the team who he's not committed to, any kind of a delay is only good news for you. If you're the team who they're, the guy's committed to, you want to see them sign, get it done. Otherwise, it's okay. You said you wanted to sign with us. Why are you not signing with us? And we'll see. He could very easily wake up tomorrow morning and sign with Tennessee. That's absolutely a possibility. But, to have 3 guys this year on top of a relative, and, the class this year, it's not a bad class. It's just you need more bodies. And a year ago, it wasn't a bad class, but you need more bodies. It's just this has been year over year over year of, it's not a bad class, but you need more bodies.
Right.
And that really adds up. And you can only do so much in the portal there because guess what? Everyone needs offensive linemen. Everyone needs tackles. And you can, the 2023 offensive line class, you're starting to see some of those guys, Austin Searveld already on the field. We're talking about Josh Patillo. We're talking about Luke Montgomery. But it's like, but you need to sign 5 or 6 of these guys some years. And they really just haven't done that. And that has continued to sort of snowball for him.
He mentioned that Javon McFadden, they're looking at as a tackle. Carter Lowe, they're looking at as a swing guy that could play either. And there are always so many swing guys in a recruiting class for Ohio State. And they may not come here as a swing guy. Austin Searveld, I don't think came here as a swing guy. He came here as a guard and is now a swing guy. The premium on tackles and the lack of tackles around, Carter Lowe is like a 5-star tackle for a while and it still gets here and it's like, well, we hope he's a tackle, but also if tackle doesn't work out, then the versatility to play guard is always welcome. And then, and Jake Cook is a guy that's probably more developmental, but we'll see where he goes. But if you can get David Sanders, that would be fantastic. You mentioned, he may end up at Tennessee. I don't know. The way things are going, everybody ends up at Oregon, like Naeem Offord, who was committed to Ohio State. And that one always felt like kind of good luck holding on to him. But that was an Auburn thing for a long time before Oregon and Uncle Phil came in there. And they have made a killing on Ohio State's defensive back targets this season.
Dorian Brew, Trey McNutt, and Naeem Offord. Those are 3 of the guys who were, we were looking a couple months ago, and it was like, boy, Ohio State, those 3 plus Sanchez plus the safety from Maryland, Fahim Delane. It was like, boy, they could sign 5 of these guys who were like top 50 prospects, and they got 2 of them, and Oregon got 3 of them. And you're not. You can always do this could be the greatest class in the history of college football every single year. And it never really works out that way because someone is always going after them. But Oregon continues to clean up. Don't tell Oregon fans Phil Knight has anything to do with it. I can assure you. And we had people on our board upset. Boy, Oregon's really eating Ohio State's lunch here. It's like, well, they're literally the number 1 team in the country. And also they have a billionaire sugar daddy who cares about nothing other than seeing a national championship before he dies. So, if Ohio State was the number 1 team in the country and also had a billionaire sugar daddy who cared nothing about, you would probably be winning more of these recruiting battles. But very few teams have those 2 things going in their favor.
One of the things let's talk about Devin Sanchez because he did sign and he was never wavered, was an early commit, and his family has been all in on Ohio State recruiting. They should honestly be part of Mark Pantoni's staff, and they may be part of like the group emails and the work emails.
The old Stacey Elliott position.
Yeah, and so they've been very and they're out in Texas, and I'm seeing the parents tweeting at 7:30 in the morning when Big Ten scholarship. I don't even remember what they're called. Not the national letters of intent anymore, but whatever those Big Ten scholarship agreement would come in, and Ohio State would tweet it out, and the parents would be like, "Welcome aboard," and so they were on this one from the outset. And they were mentioned by Ryan Day, and other parents were as well, in terms of keeping as much of this class together as possible, because the NIL stuff is constant. He said all up until today and yesterday, offers just keep coming in, and this is probably one of those days where it's thank God it's here for the coaches, because now they can move on, and they're still going to look for offensive line and things like that. There's still people out there. I don't know how deep, but this is, now that this is out of the way, now you can just worry about retaining them.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now all you have to worry about is the transfer portal, keeping everyone here, bringing people in, and such and such.
Yeah.
And there are guys who are not signing right now who are going to go on until February, presumably. And there are guys who, Sanders is not the only one who is committed somewhere and is not signing today. Yeah. There are other guys who are potentially in that mix as well. And there are a couple other names out there in Ohio State's class that I think are still floating out there. I haven't seen I'm going to call them letters of intent coming in, because I refuse. My brain is full of new college football things.
Big Ten promissory note.
I refuse to learn anything else. I think we have a super chat.
We do, from B-Man. Beat writers need to ask more about Justin Frye. He's a horrible recruiter. Seems like the only reason he's here is because he's Ryan's best man.
Okay, so you did. There were questions about Justin Frye. I mean, you can
several.
Yeah, and you've seen development on the offensive line. I mean,
I'd say this was the best year he's had.
Josh Simmons is going to be probably a first-round pick. Josh Simmons was not a first-round pick when he got to Columbus. Seth McLaughlin was not a
He was an undrafted free agent.
He was an undrafted free agent who's now probably a mid-round pick. I mean, there's been growth and development there. The recruiting has been an issue, but the recruiting's kind of an issue a lot of places. And, the misses have been consistent, and you're going to have to, at this point, you're going to have to go in the portal and dig a little deeper. I sort of threw this question on the board at BuckeyeHuddle.com and then ran the other direction because I didn't want to try and think about it yet. How many starters on Ohio State's first game 2025 offensive line are not in the building right now? Because it feels like the answer could be 3.
Yeah.
It could be 1, but it feels like you're probably going portaling for 2 to 3 guys, maybe.
How many does it need to be?
Well,
that's a different question.
That's a different question.
Because they're losing 4 starters, 4 full-time starters, and then they'll return some part-time guys. But yeah, and there's no guarantee that they don't also lose contributors to the portal as well.
Oh,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is a legitimate concern as well. Every year is free agency, so you have to keep that in mind. And really, yes, you want your coaches to recruit to be the best recruiters possible, but you're not just recruiting against other fits, the fit at Oregon or the fit at Tennessee. You're recruiting against the fit and the money. And Ohio State has all the money in the world. No, I mean, clearly they don't, because
they have plenty of money. But lots of schools have plenty of money. Ohio State does not have. This is not the Dodgers, where the Dodgers are going to have a payroll that's hundreds of millions of dollars more than 28 teams in Major League Baseball. Also, players will not take their salary deferred to 2047, like baseball players. Some will sometimes. Well, thank you. I am salty. But you have advantages at Ohio State. You have plenty of advantages at Ohio State. I will point out that Ohio State, I don't know where their class is after Naeem Offord went to Oregon, but they entered the day number 3.
Yeah.
And if they lose Naeem Offord and they land David Sanders, no offense to Naeem Offord, every single person in this building is probably taking that deal with a smile and skipping through the hallways, because you need to bring in the tackle. You've got Devin Sanchez already. You have a great 5-star corner in this class already. Another one would be great, but that's a little bit of, that's a little bit of a luxury. This is, Ohio State football is not falling apart. They're 10-2. They're going to have a home game in the first round of the playoffs, and they just signed comfortably a top 5 class in the nation, probably better than that. and they're probably going to, you're going to bring in some pretty good guys in the portal, and this is not a team that's going to take a step back and go 2-10 next year like Florida State did.
So they're currently they're number 5 composite in the 24/7 in terms of class rank. I am interested to see Jordan Woods, one of the corners that they got. Mark Pantonio keeps tweeting about being a 6'4" corner, not Mark himself, but Jordan Woods.
Yeah.
And so I'll be, that's always something interesting to look at, like Ryan Watts or Davis and Igbenos being 6'2", like these taller guys, to see how they do. One last thing we should talk about, Tom. Ohio State signed a quarterback who is the number 1, 2, or 3 quarterback in the nation. His name is Tavien St. Clair. A lot of people don't know about that.
Yes.
But
I forgot.
It used to be that when you sign a 5-star quarterback, that's big news. Of course, that's become old hat now under Ryan Day, but this is still a significant addition. We should mention it, even though he's been around forever. We both, all 3 of us here, have seen him essentially grow up in the camps, and Ryan Day talked about seeing him as an 8th grader, and we saw him, I think, probably after his freshman year, and it's just just looked like anybody else almost. But then the next year he didn't, and the next year he didn't, and then, like the last time, maybe his last year he showed up, he looks like he's already an NFL looking quarterback in terms of the change year after year. So Tavien St. Clair will enroll early. He'll be here. I mean, he's been here. He's been in all of the meetings since he was a 7th grader, basically.
He has been around the program so much that he's walking into spring ball as almost not a true freshman. And we'll see what the transfer portal looks like in the quarterback room. They have 5 scholarship guys this year. We know Will Howard's gone, just in terms of eligibility after the season. 4 other guys. I don't want to spoil the surprise. You're probably not keeping all 4 of those guys between now and spring ball. So we'll see where Tavien St. Clair is in terms of the depth chart. But he's coming in, the guys who have been here a year, I don't know that he's coming in a full year behind them. I think he's probably low. And I'm not saying 2025 starting quarterback Tavien St. Clair. I'm absolutely not saying that. But he's potentially more ready to be a QB2 type to come in and play early-ish in his career than your typical freshman. We have another super chat.
Okay.
Super chat from B-Man. Have you guys heard anything about the team meeting with Ryan Day led by Caleb Downs?
Have we heard anything about the team meeting led by Caleb Downs with Ryan Day? We've talked a little bit on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So we'll leave that there. Like there's been talk, and there's been good communication. There's been emotional communication, as you would expect after a loss. But, and as Ryan Day said, of the seniors, they're still smarting, and so there's a processing that goes on, and that process picks up once they see who they're playing, once they get out on the field, running around today and throughout the rest of the week. But yeah, I mean, there's always hard meetings and hard talks after a hard loss, and sometimes emotions get let out, and some come to Jesus talks happen with groups of people, and I think that was one of them.
Yeah, and one of the names that I heard about one of the people who was most upset was also one of the people that I saw slam a helmet down on the ground after the game on the field, so I was not surprised to hear that name. But it's one of those things where there's a game coming up on December 20th or December 21st. That's only a little over 2 weeks away at this point. So everyone sort of is going to process this. You're going to go through the stages of grief at a little bit of a different pace. Everyone is going to get to a point of acceptance, or they're not going to play in that game. But you're going to get to a point of acceptance where, okay, now it's time to move on. You've gone through your bargaining, your anger, and all that stuff, and now you're at acceptance, and now you can start focusing. And that process starts really, it's already started, but it really kind of takes another big step today when they get back out there and start practicing. And then now you can kind of, you don't have a final name, but you can sort of look and go, okay, here's some teams. Maybe start watching a little bit of film of Tennessee or Georgia or whoever else they could end up playing.
Watch that ACC championship game rather than watching the Big Ten championship game. It'll just go easier for you, I promise.
Yep.
So that will do it. I think we should wrap up there. We want to thank you all. Hit the thumbs up before we go and before you go. And, of course, continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com, $4.99 first month of your subscription. Sign up, see what's going on behind the paywall. As I said, we're talking about all the things we're hearing there. So check it out. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.